All right, visualization to realization here. So, um, whenever I have people ask me a lot of times, like about, hey, how did you know you wanted to do what you're doing now? Or how did you discover what your strengths or gifts were? Because I feel like in talking to a lot of people, some of you might already have an idea, or you don't know what it's going to look like long term. And I just want to say, doing this exercise of visualization is one of the most important things you can ever do to discover your strengths and to discover where you want to go long term and for how you to end up where you really want to be. I see this happen a lot where people have dreams that aren't really their dreams. They were their parents' dreams or what they think other people in the profession think they should be doing, but it's not actually their heart's desire. It's not what God has called them to do. And so I just want to encourage you, when you do these exercises, that's the most important thing. Visualization, for me, just to give you some practical ways I've done this, I remember I was at a point in my life, I was actually an undergrad at University of Kentucky, and I got to the point where I was just feeling like really, really empty, and I rededicated my life to God, and just got to this point where I'm like, you know what, like I want my life to look different, I want things to be different, I want to be on a different path than I'm on currently. And from then on, soon after, I saw this video on visualization, and I just started sitting down, and also I would do this as part of my prayer and saying, first off, what does my ideal life look like? So, like, again, we've talked about this before, like having a scoreboard, having a finish line. A lot of us have never sat down and visualized or had a picture of where we want to go. Like, what is your life? If I asked you right now and walked up to you and said, in 25 years, what do you want your life to look like? Describe every detail to me. Most of us have never done that. I might ask you, in 1 year. Most of us haven't done that exercise, and I'm going to tell you that this isn't like a thing where I'm trying to, make anyone feel necessarily really convicted. It's just one of those things where when I did this for myself, it was one of the most important things I've ever done to end up right now in a place in life where I'm really happy, really fulfilled, have seen a lot of success in business, in marriage and family. And so I'm just going to share with you some of the things that sort of I've come across over the years, and I hope you guys can apply it as well. So there's studies on visualization. I was a big Michael Jordan fan. I don't know if you ever have seen Michael Jordan. He's actually been able to shoot free throws with his eyes closed. But here's what they studied. A study conducted by a doctor in Chicago, Dr. Basiato, was done where he split people into 3 groups and tested each group on how many free throws they could make after this. He had the first group practice free throws every day for an hour, okay? So again, there was one group who shot free throws to practice, one group, and the goal was to get better at free throw shooting, so one group who practiced free throws, one group who didn't practice, and one group who all they did was visualize themselves. Didn't actually shoot a basket, visualize themselves making free throws. So the incredible thing is, the second group improved by 23%, which is the group that visualized themselves making free throws. So they improved by 23%. The third group did not improve at all, which was expected. The first group, who actually shot free throws, improved by 24%, but the people that visualized improved almost just as much by visualization. And this is something that athletes, the best athletes in the world, this is something they practice. I remember I had a great opportunity of working with some of USA Swimming and some Olympic level swimmers. I remember Michael Phelps, everyone else was kind of joking around before the swim meet, like this was before their nationals, and this was sort of like Olympic qualifiers. And most of the other swimmers were kind of joking around, some were kind of getting ready. Michael Phelps, he's always done this. I remember, it was kind of funny because when I was there, like ESPN was everywhere because this is his first swim meet back after getting busted for smoking pot. So, there was everybody there, but he had his hood on like this. And and you guys all probably saw the Olympics where he had laser beams coming out of his eyes. But that's how he was the whole time. And I saw him in an interview and they said, what are you doing during then? He's like, well, I'm either thinking about nothing or I'm touching I have the perfect flip turn. And I'm touching the wall first, and I'm on the podium getting my gold medal. He's thinking about that over and over and over again and seeing it. And so these are principles that are been used throughout history. They're used by the best athletes today. And if you are not doing some form of visualization, there's a good chance you're going to end up in an area or doing something that you didn't want to do. Okay, and so again, just really important thing to consider. And this is a biblical principle. God tells Abraham, he said, go look up at the sky and count the stars. If indeed you can count them, then he said to him, so shall your offspring be. God did this with his people. He did this with Abraham. He did it for Abraham. He knew that if Abraham could see it, that was an important step in it becoming a reality. And so again, Abraham did this. He looked up at the stars at night, and that was to be his descendants. And so again, this is a principle that is talked about and demonstrated in the Bible on a regular basis as well. This is I remember when I've got a buddy of mine, Jason Sloan here, who is one of my mentors in fitness. And when I was in high school, so kind of just a quick story, my sister played basketball, and Jason's wife was a basketball coach, and I actually had just been grounded for a whole semester because my report card was so bad. And so I ended up hanging out with, talking with Jason at this. So I was like a freshman in high school, and Jason had just graduated. He played football at Georgetown University. He was a great football player. So I ended up sitting next to the game with him and talking to him a little bit. And my parents said, "Oh, you're completely grounded." But I said, "Hey, can I go?" Jason invited me to work out. I'm like, "Hey, can I go hang out and work out with Jason?" They're like, "Yes." So anyways, Jason's one of the guys that really got me into fitness and taught me how to work out. But that led me to, when I went to the University of Kentucky, I ended up working as a personal trainer there, and I had this book in front of me, and it was like Arnold Schwarzenegger's Guide to Bodybuilding. And so I read this book, and one of the first things he talked about in the book is he used to go and flex for hours in the mirror, and he said he pictured his biceps turning into mountains. And I mean, it literally looks like a mountain there. I'm like, it's just crazy. Yeah, you can think it's disgusting. So, but anyways, this is something, visualization is something that so many people do. You know what, he visualized himself as governor. I'm like, how did that happen? But he did it, and part of it was he had this intention in visualization and it happening. This is something we really worked with patients, and I did this with my mom. So my mom, and many of you guys know her story, when she was diagnosed with cancer, the first time she went through that conventional medical system and just got worse. And second time she got cancer, we did an all-natural treatment. But one of the things we had her do was we had her record her voice. We had her write out all these healing scriptures, and she repeated them, by his stripes I am healed, and doing certain Bible verses over and over and over again. She repeated them, and then along with that, she'd do an exercise where she would visualize her immune system cells going and gobbling up the cancer cells and killing them. So this is something my mom did. Now, she did other things. She juiced vegetables and did some bone broth and essential oils and probiotics and all of these things. But the other thing that she did is she practiced visualization. And it was a powerful tool, we believe, in her healing from cancer. Now, I want to talk about the first person that really taught me about visualization, and it was the late, great Charles Majors. And I had this is great. I got right when I graduated, I went and interned with Chuck for 3 months and lived with him and Andrea and the kids, Caleb and Austin, in Chicago during that summer. And Chuck, our kind of every day was the same. We would wake up and we would spend some time in prayer and visualization. We would do this for a period of time, just typically 10 minutes, and then we'd go and we'd do some burst training. We would alternate doing the treadmill and push-ups and pull-ups and all that in his home basement. And then we'd go and drink some green juice. I mean, I just love seeing his family. Like we would right after our workout, typically Caleb and Austin would be getting up, and they'd they were like, I want my green drink, Daddy, and I want my cod liver oil. And these kids would be like, drinking their cod liver. Just typical great chiropractic kids and family. But Chuck was one of those people that really taught me about visualization. That's something I really practiced when I was in his office. He had me do that every day, is sit down and really visualize and picture, what does my perfect practice look like, my life and my business. And so again, this is something we know some of the greatest chiropractors of all time have done as well in their life. Visualizing life. So this is, by the way, look at those sick dance moves I have in that. I'm just like crushing it there. So that's at my wedding there with Chelsea. And that's our dog. The first time we introduced him in the water, and he is like the most miserable thing on the planet. Now, I mean, we tried to make it like this really nice experience for him, but now like when we put him in a boat, he won't look at the water. Like we'll try and make him like, he literally like will look like this. Like if I don't see it, it doesn't exist. But and that's up as we were water skiing at Chelsea's parents' place up in Minnesota. And And so anyways, the reason I'm putting this up here is, when it comes to visualization, we'll talk about it in practice, but also talking about it in life. I remember, I really believe so much in this, that one of the things I did, and I did this along with goal setting, but I really took time and I sat down and I prayed and I said, first off I said, okay, what do I want my life to look like realistically? And one of the things was, and what do I want my practice to look like? What do I want my wife to look like? Who do I want her to be? And actually, I'll tell you, I did this. This is I was in chiropractic college, and I did this exercise. I was actually dating another girl at Chelsea. And I remember I sat down, I started visualizing, what would my life look like if I marry this girl that I'm dating right now? And then I also asked God to come, and I said, God, would you just really show me what you think it would look like? I remember visualizing that and thinking and seeing myself and thinking, you know what, this isn't what I want. This isn't where I want to be. Like on the outside, and her being attractive into fitness and things like that. Hey, that could be great, but what is life really going to look like? And what God showed me I was like, no, that's not what I want. And so, anyways, with Chelsea, one of the things I did is I just started praying this prayer. I said, God, would you send me a woman who is physically breathtaking, mentally stimulating, and spiritually on fire for you? And so, I started doing that. And so I would visualize what she looked like. And I would also visualize, I would sit down and think about, okay, what are we doing on a daily basis? So we were both I was really into boating. Our dad is, Jordan and I, our dad is a semi-pro water skier. And so we grew up on the water. So I saw myself looking across the room and seeing this beautiful, blonde in the corner. And then we were going out and water skiing together and boating. We were on a lake house and really visualized and pictured sort of every area of what a day-to-day life looked like. And just sort of reaffirming that this is definitely what I want, and knowing and also asking God, hey, is this what you want for me? Is this your best for me? And this was a practice and something that I really feel sometimes surprised me. Because, a lot of times, this is an important thing. I remember doing this for a while. It's so funny. Dr. Pete and I, Camiolo, we used to talk about how we wanted to do a joint practice together. And we would drive by this Verizon, actually no, it was a CVS at the time, and it was this big 10,000 plus square foot clinic. And listen, hey, if this is your dream, great. But I used to think this is what we want. Pete and I will be practicing together, 10,000 square feet. We'll have a gym and a juice bar and all this stuff. And then I remember praying one day too, and thinking about is that really what I want? Will I be able to leave the clinic, and is this what I'm the best at? And just realizing even though that seemed like an awesome vision at first, after I really prayed about it and visualized it and thought about what would life really look like, I realized no, that's not what God has for me. And listen, I love going to those types of clinics. So again, if that's your dream and vision, that's awesome. But it's really important. Listen, if you're going to put in all this time and this effort, and if you have one life to live, it is so critical that you know where the finish line is. Because you can be off racing and going different places and end up in a place that's completely different than you thought possible. And the other thing I'll tell you, I really believe this, that when not only do you figure out and think about yourself where you want to head and the vision you want to have, when you bring God into it, it always ends up being bigger and better than you ever thought possible. I can tell you that my life today, I wasn't planning on having a company that was as big as this. It's kind of funny, I'm not kidding, 3.5 years ago, I was sitting down with Evan one day. This is right after we did that secret detox launch, when it was 3 years ago, and I'm like, it was just me, Evan, and one or two other people. I'm like, Evan, you know what? I don't think we ever need to hire anyone else. I said, we should probably just keep it like you and me, doing it like this, and it's going to be great. He's like, yeah, man, I'm game with whatever you want. Evan's just sure, great, whatever you want. And then I remember going and praying a month or two later and visualizing and realizing, no, I'm supposed to do more. And I'm like, that's great, but that's the thing, you really at least need to, my life never turns out, every year is completely different. It's never exactly where, but again, if you don't have that finish line or you don't know where you're going, you just end up in the woods somewhere. This is kind of crazy. So Chelsea and I, right after we got married down in Seaside, Florida, down in Destin, the Panhandle of Florida, and we did our first vacation there together, and we got engaged there, we got married there, and after we got married there, we went on this bike ride through a neighborhood there called Watercolor, and we got these, and I'm used to on these road bikes because I did triathlons, and you get these I don't know what they're called, bikes, but you're just kind of cruising, yeah, cruisers, you're cruising around. But like it was great. Like so, we'd cruise around on these bikes to these neighborhoods, and you just ride your bike everywhere there. And we were going through this neighborhood, and I'm like, man, like we would love to have a house here one day. We just realized, it'd be great to have another house here. And when I got home from that, I went on Google and I said, I'm gonna redo my vision board. I do this once a year. I went and redid my vision board, and I did this Google search, and I said watercolor home. And this neighborhood's huge, by the way. There's thousands and thousands of houses, so it's a huge, huge neighborhood. And so I went and Google searched, and this is one of the pictures I pulled up, and I'm like, oh, that house looks awesome. Like, I really like that house. I'm going to put that on my vision board. So I posted that up on my vision board there. So we were in Florida about a year ago or so, and we were down there with Chelsea's parents, and we were cruising around on these cruisers again. And we're like, man, you know what? Like, I don't even know how we ended up buying a lot, but we did. And like I got home, and like we were like, hey man, we should really look at. I was talking to my father-in-law, and I'm like, man, I would really love to get a house here. And I said, maybe we can just like lowball an offer and just get, like try and get one of these lots, because there's only like a couple lots left on the lake. There's a lake there that's intercoastal, connects the ocean. And I said, okay. So anyways, yeah, let's place some bids. So we placed some bids on the lot, and we didn't get a lowball offer. We got whatever they were asking for, pretty much. But we ended up getting this lot, and we were just so excited about this. And I get home, and I'm working on my office. I'm actually recording a webinar. All of a sudden, I looked over. I don't know what caused me. I looked over at my vision board, and I kept going, man, like there's something so familiar about this house. I'm trying to figure out what it is, and I realized that it's the house that's next door to the lot we're building on right there. There's the house. And so it's crazy because like this tree is in the picture and part of the lot. So we didn't get this house, but we got a house that we're even more excited about that we think is going to be even better. So, one of the things here, I mean, this was such direct confirmation for me in the power of visualization here, and that, God, if you are a person that is prayerful and really, out there serving humanity, loving humanity, and your purpose and passion is in line with God's, typically what you visualize, He goes above and beyond it. And so just want to encourage you guys, again, just that power of visualization. I mean, we're building this now. This is a picture from a couple months ago, and we just were there last week looking at the house before it's done. But this is really just so powerful. And I know that everybody has, I'm not going to make this a religious thing. I know everybody has different views of who God is, but to me, God is really a father. And like, just think about, like, if you have kids, you want what's best for them. I mean, you want to fulfill the desires of your kids' hearts, right? You want them to be happy. So this for me, and listen, this isn't about building second homes, visualization. It's not about making more money, but it really is you living in alignment and you fulfilling your God-given purpose in life. Here's some practical things. Vision, goal, strategy. Set aside some time to think through what you want in life. What is your purpose? What do you find truly fulfilling, and what is your life calling? Set aside some time to do that. I mean, most of us, again, we are so busy spending so much time working as technicians in the practice, or bringing our kids to soccer or basketball or football practice, or doing all these different things, that we've never take time to think about, okay, again, it's one of those things like, okay, you can spend all this time thinking you're creating success in life, but if you're miserable or end up in a miserable place, that's not where you want to be. So before goal setting, before strategy, you really need to start with visualization. And for me, I just typically sit on I sit on a lounge chair, or like or a couch, and I just sit there for 15, 20 minutes and just really just clear my mind and pray, and I just let my mind go, just thinking through all these different things. What do I want my future look like in 1 year, and 5 and 25 years, and thinking through those things, and then asking God, what is the best that He has for your life look like? Number 3, then write it down. Get out a pen and paper and then write down what you saw. Write down that vision that you have, because I'll tell you the most powerful thing too, I've gone back and I look back at things I've written over the years, my goals and journals that I've written in terms of these visions I have, and every time they're either so spot on or they're above and beyond what I'd even imagined. And so again, writing it down is so powerful in terms of building faith and hope and confidence. Whenever Chelsea and I go through trials in business and life, by the way, in October, one of the things I want to do is go through sort of the 9-year process of sort of year to year, and show you guys sort of our ups and downs in business. I had somebody, Matt Fromm, a buddy of mine, just shared with me the book Shoe Dog from from Phil Knight, the founder of Nike. And I'm excited to read it. I've heard just a little bit about the book and the ups and downs of the company. But for us, I'm just telling you, like for me, 3 years ago, we're at the point where I was actually working in an MLM company that was going under. And I'd invested like anything from selling my practice, and it was, I couldn't get it out, or I just kind of like spent it on things. And I literally was like, okay, like, I don't know how we're going to make money. Like, that was 3 years ago, so things happen fast. They happen really fast. But, when we were going through that time, Chelsea and I just, we prayed about it. We were so confident. And one of the great things, too, was I remember just the next week, we were just going through our journals and reading through all the times before that, things worked out. God was faithful. Things came through. So, again, writing it down is a powerful thing and looking back through those things. And then make it a goal. I had written down, I'd had that picture on my vision board, but I'd written down home in Seaside, Florida in 2018. It's happening probably 2 months earlier, but I'd written that down on my vision board years before. So again, write it down as a goal and then lay out a plan and strategy to get there, okay? If your goal is to have a practice making $800,000 a year and having, whatever, a certain percentage of profit, like write that down. And then also go back and say, in order for this to be true, what needs to happen? Who are the people that need to be hired? What are the systems that need to be in place? How many days off do you want a year? I mean, you just really got to be detailed in writing out every single thing. Most of us don't write it out enough. We don't get enough detail. You really want to write out all of those details and laying out a plan and strategy. This is my vision board. Well, this is a vision board from years ago, actually. I'm trying to think when this would have been. This is a while ago. So this is a vision board. I have, and some of these things never happen, but you know what? It's great. Like 300 radio stations. I got a picture on Dave Ramsey here. And I don't know if I told you guys this. So I worked with a coach in Colorado, and I told him, this was probably like 8 years, this was a long time ago. And he said, hey, what do you want to do? And I told him, I said, I want to be able to travel when I work, and I want to be able to have more freedom in schedule and create content and all this stuff. And he said, okay, well, what are some other things you want to do? I'm like, well, and he's like, and who are you modeling? I'm like, oh, I'm modeling Dave Ramsey. He goes, you don't want to do that. I'm like, well, why? He's like, you just told me you want to have freedom and travel and do all this, and you're telling me you want to be on 500 radio stations and have to do a radio show 5 days a week for 3 hours? Like, yes, good point. Like, what I was doing wasn't going to add up to the future I actually wanted. It was really, really great advice. And so again, what I do with my vision board is I just go on Google Images, I print out all the images that are related to certain things I have on my vision board, and then I write down the goals on one sheet and my strategy on the second sheet. And this is how I personally do my vision board. I look at it when I wake up, I look at it before bed, and just making sure that I'm on track there as well with that vision board. Another fun thing, I had my team do this. This is a little bit, not necessarily as relevant here, but creating a bucket list is fun too. I remember I was growing up, my family, half my family was Notre Dame fans. Half my family was Catholic, and the other half was Ohio State fans because we were from Ohio. But so I kind of grew up watching Lou Holtz and Notre Dame for a while too. But Lou Holtz has a really cool story that he wrote down the top 100 things he wanted to accomplish in life right after he got fired as an assistant coach for another college football team. And then he went and wrote down all these goals soon after he got hired as the head coach of Notre Dame, met the president, traveled and met the Pope of the Vatican, did all these things. And so anyways, it's always good to write down a bucket list too and make these some fun things in life. So again, just want to encourage you guys, take some time here, harness that power of visualization because, again, the last thing you want to do is spend all this time building and working and putting all this effort into life and then end up in a place later on where you're like, oh man, I wasted all this time, I'm not where I want to be. So again, I really believe that if you harness visualization, it's going to help you get there.